It's your island girl. Come on in, rock back, put a smile on your face and enjoy. To all my regular, schmegler, day one, sweetie pie, sweetie poos, come on in, rock back. Put a smile on your face and enjoy this reaction with your island girl. And today I'm reacting to 50 words Australians pronounce weird. Okay? American versus Australian pronunciation. Without further ado, let's get into this video. Here we go.
Emu, 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 mew, moo, mew, mew, emu. What is good, y'all? Tristan here, and today I am back with a new video. We are talking about 50 words that Americans and Australians just pronounce differently. As you can tell by the intro, the first word that Americans and Australians just pronounce differently is emu. So Americans pronounce it emu, Australians pronounce it emu. I recently did a video where I said emu and y'all just about lost it in the comment section. Everyone going after me for saying emu wrong or saying it the American way. It was actually that video, me saying emu, that kind of helped inspire this video. I had a bunch of you reach out to me saying that I should do a video about words that are pronounced differently. The first one to reach out to me was a subscriber named Craig, so shout out to you, Craig. But Craig, when he reached out to me, he sent me about, I don't know, 5 to 10 words that we pronounce differently. One of them being his very own name. He said the way I say it, just have been saying it, Craig, is wrong, or not how they say it in Australia. In Australia they pronounce it Craig. They really emphasize that A, Craig. Whereas in America we just kind of pronounce that name as like as if it had an E, like C-R-E-G, Craig. Anyways, those are the first two, but we got 48 more awesome words. So here we go. Number 3 is Puma, or as they would say it in Australia, Puma. Like the cat or the apparel company, or there's a petrol station line kind of like 7-Elevens here in Australia called Pumas, or what they say Puma, like a little gun, like pew pew pew. I don't know, that's what I think of when I think of it, but yeah, pew pew Puma.
No, it's Puma.
Number 4 is buoy, or as they say it in Australia, boy. Like the little thing that floats in the water, we pronounce that buoy. Here in Australia, they pronounce it boy, like boy and girl, kind of, yeah, same thing, boy. Before I say more of these words, I just need to make a quick disclaimer and say that not all Americans say this like the American way, and not all Australians say these words the like Australian way. I ran this video, this list by a couple Australians. There was like 4 or 5 Australians. Not all of them pronounced all the words the exact same. Like there are a couple words that like a couple of them said it the American way. There's actually like 1 or 2 words on this list that I say the Australian way, but in general, I think most Australians say it the Australian way, and most Americans will say it the American way in terms of this video. Alright, there we go. That was the disclaimer. Number 5 is Nutella. This yummy stuff. Americans, like me, I would...
Nutella. Nutella. Okay, guys? Nutella.
Americans, like me, I would pronounce this Nutella, like it's Nutella. Here in Australia, they pronounce it Nutella, like a nut. Yeah, Nutella, Nutella. Number 6 is the popular card game Uno. In America, we
Uno. Uno.
Pronounce it Uno. It's kind of like the emu one. Uno. Here, it is more pronounced like Uno. Number 7 is caramel, or as it said in Australia,
caramel. Caramel.
Caramel. 8 is tomato, or as it said in Australia, tomato. Number 9 is a crazy one. It is this stuff that you like put over food and whatnot. We would call it in America aluminum. Here in Australia, it is aluminium. 10 is the apparel company. And
hold on. Aluminum? And you guys call it aluminium? Aluminium? I'm about to bite off my tongue. What? File paper.
The apparel company in America, we would pronounce this as Adidas.
Adidas. Adidas.
However, here in Australia, it is Adidas. One thing I want to note real quick is a lot of these differences in pronunciations are like they come from England, and so a lot of these words that Australians say differently to Americans, you could almost make this whole list and say English people also say these words different. Not for all of them, but as a general rule of thumb, you could say it for most. Number 11 is this car company right here.
Nissan.
So we would pronounce this in America as Nissan. However, here in Australia, it is pronounced Nissan. Number 12 is this, I don't know, breathing, respiratory condition, whatever you want to call it. In America, we call it asthma, and in Australia, it's pronounced asthma. We kind of say it more like a Z sound, like asthma, where here it's more like an S sound, like asthma. 13 is this plant. We would call it oregano in the States. However, here in Australia,
Oregano. Oregano.
Is pronounced oregano. This plant right here,
Oregano.
I would pronounce this, or
Basil.
Americans would pronounce this as basil. However, in Australia, it is pronounced basil. This nut right here,
Basil.
me and most Americans would pronounce this as pecan. However, in Australia, most people pronounce this as pecan. Now, number 16 is kind of an iffy one because I actually naturally say this one the Australian way, but I've heard it both ways in America. So that is apricot or apricot. So apricot is like the American way, but I've always pronounced it apricot, which is how like everyone in Australia pronounces it. Number 17 is fillet, or it's fillet if you're American. Here in Australia, they pronounce it as fillet. So it is a fillet of fish or a fillet of fish. Fillet, fillet. Now the next two are just letters, but that is the letter Z. So I pronounce it Z as I just
Z.
said, but in Australia they pronounce it Z. The next letter is this letter, H is that I would say it. However, and like some people in Australia do say H, but a lot of them here pronounce it H, like H. 20 is leisure, so me and like every
leisure. Leisure time. Leisure.
American pronounces it leisure. I've never heard it pronounced any other way. However, I came here to Australia and they pronounce it leisure. The next two are countries. So Iraq, we pronounce it Iraq. Here they pronounce it Iraq. Like we say I, they say Iraq, Iraq. Same thing for the next one, which is Iran. Yeah, just a minor difference. 23 is fragile, or it's fragile if you're American. Here in Australia, how they say it is it's fragile, like
fragile. That's how we say it in Jamaica too. Fragile.
They say aisle, we say ul. 24 is missile, or as they would say it in Australia,
missile.
Missile. And 25 is military, or as they would say it in Australia, military. America, military. Australia, military. Now 26 is going to be the most controversial of them all, because not all Australians, I would actually say most Australians don't say this word this way, but I've heard of a couple say it, and I'm telling you, it is so wrong. It sounds, of all the ones, this is the most triggering for me. I hate it when people pronounce this word this way, and that is vitamins. Like, did you take
vitamins? Here we go. The word is vitamins. Okay, guys? Vitamins. Let's hear this pronunciation. All right.
Take your vitamins this morning. You know, it's healthy to take your vitamins.
Yes.
Some people in Australia, I don't know why, but they pronounce it vitamins. No, it can't be. It's not vitamins. That just sounds so wrong. All these words that I've said, not one way is right over the other. They're just different ways of pronouncing words. But this one, I'm gonna stick by it and say vitamins is right. Vitamins, it just sounds wrong. 27. In America, we say garage. In Australia, some people still say garage, but a lot of people here also say garage. That one seems to be about like a 50-50.
Garage. Garage.
But here, it's kind of like there's an American way to say it and an English way to say it, and in Australia they kind of, I don't know, they kind of do both. 28 is this lovely striped animal right over here. I would pronounce this, Americans would pronounce this as zebra. However, in Australia they pronounce it zebra. 29 is mobile, or as they would say it in Australia, mobile. 30 is a crazy one because when I first heard it, like, I thought it was a different word. I didn't realize that they were saying the same word, just pronouncing it different, but that's cordial or cordial. So yeah, in America we pronounce it cordial, whereas here in Australia it's pronounced cordial. 31 is...
That one got me already. Cordial. I'll bite up my tongue. That word. I didn't get it either. Advertisement. Advertisement, and the difference is like which syllable you stress. So in American English we would say advertisement, and in Australian English you say advertisement. It's like there's more emphasis on the vert part. When we shorten that word, we refer to it as an ad, like, oh, did you see the Super Bowl ad? Whereas in Australia, when they like shorten that word down, they shorten it down to advert. So like, oh, did you see that advert? 32 is depot. So yeah, Americans, we pronounce it depot. In Australia, they pronounce it depot. 33 is this fragile little... This one is another one. Vase. We say vase in Jamaica. Thing that you put flowers in, so we would pronounce it in American English as vase, whereas here in Australia they pronounce it vase. So the way we say it, it rhymes with like face, like your face, vase, whereas here it is vase, as in like phase, like it doesn't phase me. Phase, vase. Face, vase, phase, vase. Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. That's gonna be, yeah, you get it. Vase,
screw it. You got it. You got it already. Moving on. 34 is adult, or as they would say in Australia, adult. 35 is mom, which they say in Australia as mum. But that's also English influence, but this is kind of more than just a different pronunciation because we spell it M-O-M, and here in Australia they spell it M-U-M, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know if they pronounce it differently or if it's just a different word, but yeah. Mom. 36 is premier or premiere. So in American English, we would say this word as premier, Australian premiere. I kind of like the way Australians say it more. I think that sounds more right. So yeah, premiere. 37 is herb or herb.
Herb.
I just said it the Australian way. In American English, herb, you just don't pronounce the H at all. And in Australian English, it is herb, you do pronounce the H. 38 is scone, so this thing right here, we pronounce that in American English as scone, whereas in Australian English, it is pronounced scone. 39 is this car brand right here, so
Hyundai.
In America, we pronounce this Hyundai, which everyone tells me is wrong, it probably is. So we pronounce this as Hyundai, here they pronounce it as Hyundai. Americans make
Hyundai. Interesting. Hyundai. Now I'm confused.
Get like 2 syllables like Hyundai, Australians 3 syllables, Hyundai. Okay. Now 40 and 41 are quite similar, but that is semi. So yeah, we say this word as semi, like with the I, we say I at the end. In Australian English, they would pronounce it semi. Semi, but yeah, I know some Americans who say it the Australian way, the semi way. In similar fashion, we have anti and anti. Americans, hard I, long I, whatever you want to say. Anti, Australians, anti. And similar to anti, we have aunt or aunt. So like it goes. Americans say it both ways, but I've always said it aunt, like your aunt and uncle. But there are some people in America who pronounce it aunt. Here in Australia, everyone pronounces it, or at least everyone I've met has pronounced it aunt, which honestly kind of makes sense because like, I don't know, your aunt isn't like an aunt, like she's an aunt. 43 is entrepreneur, so
entrepreneur. The word is entrepreneur. Okay guys, let's see how this goes.
So I've always pronounced this entrepreneur. In Australia they pronounce this entrepreneur, so like entrepreneur. 44 is niche or niche. So in America, again, Americans say this both ways. I've heard Americans say niche, I've heard Americans say niche, but it's pretty common to say niche. I myself have always said niche, but in Australia no one says niche, it is niche here in Australia. 45
turmeric. Pronounce it turmeric.
Is this spice right here, so I would pronounce this as turmeric. However, in Australia they would pronounce it as turmeric, like you have a tumor. Turmeric. You get it? Real quick guys, I just want to say I hope you're enjoying this video, and if you are, please make sure you give it a big old like and maybe consider subscribing. You know, don't have to, but I really do appreciate it. And if you like these types of videos, I got a whole lot more videos of like comparing like America and Australia and talking about the language differences. So if you want to see those, I will link them all in the description below. Back to the video. 46 is bouquet. So I say bouquet, but like a soft O, bouquet. Here in Australia, they would pronounce it bouquet. A bouquet of flowers, bouquet of flowers, bouquet, bouquet. 47, I don't know if it's necessarily a difference in pronunciation, but it's kind of like a word, but also pronunciation. So if you have an animal, like a dog, that is your pet. And your pet likes it when you pet them. Or that's what we would say in American English. You would say you pet your pet, you pet your dog. We use the word pet as a noun and a verb. Here in Australia, they don't do that. They would
I'm on board with Australia. You pat your dog. Pat your dog. It's not pet your dog, you pat your dog. I get that. Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Say you pat your dog. You pat your cat. I don't know if you really pat cats, but you get it. They would say you pat your pet. We would say we pet our pet. Now these last three all kind of have to do with how Australians pronounce the R sound at the end of a word. So they just don't really pronounce it. So for example, we would say car, or here in Australia it's just like car. Like they hardly say the R. And this goes for like a bunch of words. Like any word that ends in like an IR, ER, AR, in Australia, just kind of how the accent is, they just say So like doctor, doctor, butter, butta, better, betta. The R is not really pronounced. Well, these last two, it's kind of a question for you Australians. It's going to be controversial, but I want to ask. These two cities, so y'all have Melbourne and y'all have Cairns. Australians love to get Americans a hard time for mispronouncing these cities. We call Melbourne, Melbourne, and we call Cairns, Cairns, because there's like an R there. Cairns. Well, my question for you is, are we actually mispronouncing these cities, or are we just saying them with an American accent? It's hard for me to say one way or the other, because like on one hand I'm like, all right, like whoever lives in that city gets to name the cities and like say how it's pronounced. So yes, it's Melbourne and it's Cairns. But then at the same time, I'm like, if the actual name of the city, if the actual name is actually Melbourne and the actual name is actually Cairns, it wouldn't matter because the Australian accent just leaves the R off if it's ever in the last syllable of a word. So you would pronounce Melbourne, Melbourne, and you would pronounce Cairns, Cairns. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you
That was interesting. Some of these words were like, no, no. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to go in the comment section. Tell me what you'd like me to react next because it will be done. Hey guys, and I'll definitely catch you guys in another video.